Ladies and gentle monsters, it is I, Ghoulie Irv, again rising from my slumber to tell you about some terrific trivia from a decade of horror movie history, sure to give you some satisfying shudders. Which decade, you ask? Let us consult our all-knowing oracle, that magnificent machine of scare cinema studies, the Weird Wheel. Here it is, ready to take us back to a terrifying, petrifying past. Whoa! It's the frightening 40s. It was the time of monsters, macabre mayhem, and mostly atmospheric black and white movies. Except for Dr. Cyclops, the 1941 tale of a mad scientist played by Albert Decker, whose evil experimentation involves shrinking people in the jungles of Peru. Directed by Ernest B. Schoedsack of King Kong fame, the film offered state-of-the-art special effects, for its time at least, and was also the very first horror sci-fi film shot in Technicolor. Most of the movies of the 1940s, however, were in glorious black and white. Can you even imagine what the RKO Creepers of producer Val Lewton would look like if the colorization creature ever clapped its clammy claws across the majestic monochromatic frames? Chilling! The creepy low-budget offerings from Lewton include The Cat People, Meow, The Curse of the Cat People, Double Meow, Bedlam, The Body Snatcher, The Leopard Man, I Walked with a Zombie, Isle of the Dead, and The Seventh Victim. Amazingly, the prolific producer made all these movies within a span of 7 years. Did you know that most of the Lewton films were shot on the old sets that Orson Welles used for the Magnificent Ambersons? Were you aware that psychedelic rock pioneer Rocky Erickson wrote a song called I Walked with a Zombie that was later covered by REM and other groups? The teaming of Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi for The Body Snatcher was the final film to pair the two icons of terror. And believe it or not, there is a reference to the mummers in Curse of the Cat People. Too bad the Cat People don't sing, "Oh, them golden scratches" in this one. Ha 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 ha! The fear-laden 40s were filled with remakes and sequels, and you thought that only went on today? Does it still count as a remake if it's only the title getting reused? 1941 gave us The Black Cat in the second of many lives to come. It had a completely different story from the Edgar G. Ulmer film of the 1930s, but still had almost nothing to do with the original Poe tale. The Ghost of Frankenstein gave Lon Chaney Jr. the chance to take over the part of the monster made immortal by Karloff, the Uncanny, with Bela Lugosi's Igor returning to help restore the creature's power of speech. Karloff himself came back to the series in the House of Frankenstein, but he was a doctor, a mad one though, with John Carradine playing a suave and sinister Dracula, and Glenn Strange, whose very name seemed to predict his place in the pantheon of horror. He was the hulking, mute-again monster. Carradine made the second Drac attack in the Monster Mash House of Dracula, a year after Chaney Jr. played the Wolfman for the second time in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. He got a serious haircut, donned a stylish mustache, and twirled or swirled in a famous cape to portray the son of Dracula, cleverly disguising himself as Count Alucard. Well, maybe that's not so clever after all. The Lodger took up silver screen residence for the third time in 1944, giving us another look at Jack the Ripper. And the Phantom of the Opera stalked the screens once more, this time in color, with sound and boasting Claude Rains in a far from invisible lead. Lest we forget, the picture of Dorian Gray, starring Herb Hatfield, George Sanders, and Donna Reed in a black and white classic that boasted 4 color sequences spotlighting the unsettling portrait. Dead of Night, the spooktacular 1945 British anthology film, featured one of the scariest haunted dummy sequences ever, and it wasn't even me. And for those who love the mix of horror and comedy, you can't go wrong with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which features Bud and Lou running into Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, the Wolfman, and finally, the Invisible Man. This chock full of chuckles classic has a wild history behind it. Bela Lugosi was not originally cast as Count Dracula because the producers thought he was dead. Lon Chaney Jr., who plays the Wolfman here, also doubled as the Frankenstein monster for one scene after Glenn Strange hurt himself. And yes, that is the voice of Vincent Price's The Invisible Man at the film's end. No 40s Frightmare tribute can be complete without a nod to beloved character actor Rondo Hatton, who turned an affliction with acromegaly to his advantage, making unforgettable appearances in many a B movie. Hatton passed away in 1946, the same year as The Brute Man, in which he performed his most remembered role as the Creeper. Monster kids of all ages can yearly vote for the winners in the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Awards, named after the distinctive screen star. So it seems the 1940s were quite a time for fear-mongering film lovers, huh? That sound tells me to scram before I have to scream. It might be Lon Chaney Jr., upset I didn't mention anything about the Wolfman. Well, I guess it's time to go now. Until next time, this is Goulier bidding you adieu and stay scary. Woo!